Okay, so we're still on BE 6.6. We looked at the FIFO method. So that was the part A that we needed to do. And now we're going to take a look at the same question, but we're going to do the average cost. And the template I gave said moving weighted average cost, which is just an elongated name. It's called the moving weighted average. Weighted average is just the calculation we're doing, and it's moving because remember, under average cost, every time we have a purchase, we update the average cost that we're using. So it moves with every purchase that we have. Okay, so same question. The first thing that we start with is the purchase on August 2nd. So this will look the same as it did under the FIFO. Your purchases column will be the same under both methods, but the inventory on hand and cost of goods sold is different as we go under this method. So the purchase, we purchased $250 at $70, gets us to our total cost of $17,500. Since that's the first thing we've purchased, that's our only inventory, that cost is also the average cost that we use in the ending, because that's all that we have. So we just carry that over. Okay, so now on August 3rd, we have our second purchase. So we purchased $500 at $100 with a total cost of $50,000. So now we're using the average cost. So rather than keeping these separate like we did under FIFO, we always only have one average cost that is used. Okay, so the way that we do this, the first thing that you figure out is the quantity. So that's number one. The second thing we'll figure out is total cost, and then we always figure out the unit cost third. So I'm going to label each of these just so I can point out how I'm getting the numbers. So this 250, I'm going to call that A. And then the 500 over here is B. So our two opening quantities, the opening what we had, and then the purchase. So our quantities are A and B. And we're going to use those to calculate what I'm going to say here is C. And the formula, we're just adding these because we have some plus we purchase more gets us to our total quantity. So A plus B equals C. So 250 plus 500, we get 750. That's our total quantity. So once we figure out the quantity, like I said, number two, we go to the total cost. And we just follow the same thing. So we'll call this D. Our total cost over here is E. Sorry, that's really small. And then we're going to get to the total overall cost over here, which will be F. So again, we're just adding D plus E equals F. So if the total we paid on August 2nd was $17.50, we're just adding this new cost that we paid on the 3rd, and that gets us to our total. So it makes sense. One cost plus the second cost equals our total cost. So $17,500 plus 50 equals $67,500. And then the third thing that we calculate is our unit costs. So we'll call this one G. And G is equal to our total costs in F and you divide that by the quantity. So here we take the 67,500, divide it by the 750 that we have. And that gets us our weighted average cost. So 67,500 divided by 750 gets us to $90. And the question said to round to the nearest cent for presentation, so that's why I put the double zeros there. Okay, so weighted average, with every purchase, we need to calculate this new average. And you always do these steps when you have a purchase. So you figure out the quantity first, you just add what you had plus what you bought. Same thing for the cost. Here was our total cost, add the new total cost of the purchase, gets us to this total cost on hand, and then you divide the total cost divided by the quantity to get the unit cost. And that's always the step that you do. So this unit cost always needs to come third. It's the last step after a purchase. Okay, the next transaction we have is on August 10th, and we have a sale of 300 units. So now you can see we only have one cost in this line. So we're only using that one cost when we have a sale. So we sell 300 and we use our newly calculated unit cost of $90. And then here we're saying our quantity times our unit cost equals our total cost. So 300 times 90 equals 27,000. So we just multiply those. For our quantity, you just follow through. So we had 750. If we sold 300, we're left with 400. So now instead of adding, we're just subtracting. And you can, when you have a sale, I should say, it does not change the unit cost. So you don't have to redo the math here. You can just carry that $90 down. With every purchase, you need to recalculate, but a sale will not change the unit cost. So you can just move that down. And then you can do whichever you find. You could take 450 times 90. Actually, no, that's a lot. You need to follow the steps again. So take the 67,500 minus 27,000. And that gets us to 40,500. So just subtracting that again. Which does equal, if you take 450 times 90, you get that same amount. But sometimes there's a little bit of a rounding error. So you just want to do the subtraction. So 750 minus 300 gets us 450. 67,000 minus 27 is 40,500. And then just carry down the unit cost. Okay, the next transaction was on the 15th, and again we had another purchase. We purchased 900 units at $120 each, multiply those out, and we get $108,000 as our total cost. So now we do the same thing that we did on the 3rd. We figure out our quantity first, and we're adding. So 450 plus 900 gets us to 1350. And then we always do the total cost second. So 40,500 plus 108. We are at 148,500. And then step 3, as we see down here, we take the total cost and we divide by the number of units, or the quantity. So we take 148,500, divide by 1350, and we get our new updated unit cost of $110. So we have to calculate that new average cost with every purchase. On the 25th, we have another sale. Again, we don't have to separate anything out. We only have the one new cost that we use. So we sell $325. We use the $110 that we just calculated. If you multiply that out, you get $35,750. And then again, update quantity first. So 1,350 minus 325. We're left with 1,025. We do the total cost the same way. So 148,500 minus the 35,750. And we're left with 112,750. And then we just carry this down. So you always just get to carry down the unit cost after a sale. Okay. Again, we're at the end of the month, but before we're really done with our tracking, we need to figure out our ending amounts. Because the question asked us to calculate cost of goods sold and ending inventory. So we've got our ending inventory, but we need to figure out total cost of goods sold. And for these questions, you need to always just go through, do the total of the purchases as well. So we're just adding down. We have the same amount of purchases that we did. So add that up, we get to $1,650. Total cost, $175,000. So I'm just adding each of these as I go down. For cost of goods sold, we sold 300 plus 325 equals 625. We never have our unit costs there for cost of goods sold or purchases because they change. And then we add the 2,700 or 27,000 plus 35,750 gets us to 62,750. And then our inventory on hand, we just move this down because it's not a total, it's what we have on hand right now. So we still have the 125 at 112,750. And here you could write 110 because that is in fact the unit cost that we will use for all of these inventory items. Okay, so that is the full step of the average cost. Now let's just do a really quick comparison between the two. So let's look at purchases first. Under average cost, we have $1,650 was our quantity and total of $175,000, which is going to be the same. So regardless of what costing method you use, the actual amount that you pay on your purchases and the quantity that you're purchasing, that doesn't change. That's just based on the invoice that you're given from the supplier. So under both methods, your purchases, you'll get to the same amount. If we look at our cost of goods sold, we have 625, that's our quantity, and 55,000 is our total cost of goods sold. So this equals our cost of goods sold. That's the total. So if you were asked that in the question, that's what your amount would be. This is your dollar value of cost of goods sold. So 55,000, quantity of 625. Well, obviously your quantity is going to stay the same because no matter how you track it, you still sold the same number. So your quantity doesn't change, but we definitely have a different dollar value. So here, our cost of goods sold is equal to 62,750. So a different amount, and that's what will differ when you use these different systems. Average cost, your cost of goods sold will differ from FIFO. If we look at our ending inventory, we're left with $1,025, and this is our ending inventory value. So again, your quantity is not going to change. You still sold the same amount. That means you're still left with the same amount. But we do have a different ending inventory value. So that will differ under the different systems. Okay, so that is a long walkthrough, but it's good for you to practice. So below this video, I'll post another question that you can go ahead and practice on your own, both the FIFO and average cost.